Well, I worry about that because, I have no problem, as I said in response to an earlier question about AI being used. AI becomes an alternative to your own preparation. That would be a serious loss for the student as well as for the school. Everything is good if it's used to serve us. It becomes bad if we end up being dominated by it. Our Indian parents spent $5.2 billion last year in sending their children abroad for foreign education. To my mind, that's a real waste of resources.
Hello, joining us Shashi Tharoor sir, a seasoned parliamentarian, author and public intellectual, to discuss with us the evolving landscape of education in India. Taking NEP in the ground, so what are the most urgent things that need to be improved in the implementation?
Well, I think the first challenge is whether you're talking about NEP at college level or at school level. At the school level, the objectives are very laudable, but implementation has suffered in various areas. For example, a number of schools do not fulfill the requirements of things like playgrounds and so on. It is not realistic very often to expect children to travel to some other school 30 kilometers away that has a playground, that sort of thing. There needs to be a rationalization of that. The second challenge at the school level, it seems to me, is the fact that while the objectives are laudable, how do they get financed? For example, if you want, as the Prime Minister famously said, every high school student to be able to study both music and mathematics, you must remember that mathematics, all you need is a teacher and a blackboard. But for music, you need a music room or several. You need several different teachers for several different instruments, several different musical skills. All of these things cost money. They need space. They need the instruments themselves. You need different teachers. Who's going to pay for that? If you're expecting to put the burden onto the parents, that becomes a challenge. If you don't put the burden on the parents, the school may say they can't afford to provide all this. And finally, what happens to the poor student whose parents can't afford to finance their talents? So these are some of the issues that need to be addressed before this dream can be properly fulfilled. At the college level, I think that I've been quite supportive of the new flexibility that's been brought in. I like the fact that you can, for example, major in a particular subject of the humanities, but take a science course on the side or vice versa. I genuinely believe that people need to have that kind of exposure to different fields. But again, the practicalities of that have yet to be fully thought through and implemented, and I'm yet to hear of successful university implementation. The second problem I need to see, frankly, is much more genuine autonomy to the universities to set their own curricula, to decide their own mixture of courses, and to be accountable for their own academic output. I think there's still too much regulation of the process and not enough regard paid to just judging by the output. And that's something that's very important.
Okay, sir. Sir, artificial intelligence is being widely used in classrooms and exams nowadays. So, how AI can adapt to the education system without losing the academic integrity?
Well, I worry about that because, I have no problem, as I said in response to an earlier question about AI being used for research. Even then, it needs cross-checking in some cases. But when it comes to AI serving as a substitute for thought, where a student gets AI to write their homework assignment, then the student is no longer thinking and the student is no longer training their mind to think. That can be a dangerous illusion. It's when you've been through the grind and then you use AI to supplement your work, that's one thing. If AI becomes an alternative to your own preparation, that will be a serious loss for the student as well as for the school. AI, for other purposes, cleaning up language expression, perhaps reference material, perhaps even assembling a wider range of sources than normally would have been available in a high school library. All of those things could be useful. But I think it has to be used very judiciously. Everything is good if it's used to serve us. It becomes bad if we end up being dominated by it.
So foreign universities are going to be implemented in India. So how can we ensure that Indian students will also get equal access to the quality education?
So the logic of foreign universities coming in here precisely is to cater to the kind of Indian students who are currently going abroad anyway. Our Indian parents spent $5.2 billion last year in sending their children abroad for foreign education. To my mind, that's a real waste of resources as well as talent.
exactly.
And then you find out that suddenly, when there is a war in Ukraine, you have to evacuate 30,000 Indian students. You're shocked. When no one knew that there were 30,000 Indian students studying in Ukraine. There are Indian students in every sort of small country somewhere in the former Soviet Union, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan. Why? Because they can't get into comparable quality institutions in India. That shouldn't happen. So if there are parents who want to send their children abroad, let them instead send them to foreign quality institutions in our country. That's the thinking. And I would say it would simply be another kind of private university offering. There are very good private universities in India that offer standards comparable to the Western world. And there are good government universities in India. I went to Delhi University and I'm very proud of my degree from there. But at the same time, I will say that you have to see in many, many ways that our country has far more demand for education than we have a supply of quality higher education institutions. Even though that has improved a lot, when the British left, we only had 30 colleges, 30 universities in the whole country. I mean, that's obviously not even remotely adequate, and it's not where we are today. We are now from a country with just 4 lakh students in higher education. We now have millions of students in higher education, and so it should be. But too many of our students are not getting into the kind of quality studies of their choice right now. So that's why I welcome foreign universities coming in. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it can be a good thing. It's simply adding to the choices available. I want India to be a country where eventually not only will Indian students not need to go abroad in such large numbers, but maybe even foreign students will want to come here to our campuses if they're good enough. And that's something we need to achieve.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.